Hey, what's up, guys? Faramar here. I've had a few questions this week, and honestly, it's been through the past few weeks too, and I addressed some of these things in some of my videos and some of the things I don't. So I'm just going to recap it. After all, this is a feral recap, so hopefully you guys enjoy this. I'm essentially going to be going over feral stats, going over some of my add-ons, as well as some of my macros. So, anyways. Hope this interests you guys. If there's something that you would rather me talk about, please post it in the comments below, and we'll take it from there. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump in. So, I've gone over this in previous videos, and if anybody is just curious about some, I obviously critical strike and mastery are your number one stats, but maybe you don't know how far or how much is too much, and you don't want to use a third party to optimize it. You don't want to, have to simulate it, use an add-on, things like that. Fair enough. Agreed. It is just a game. Sometimes you don't want to have to go run and do a bunch of math in order to, optimize your stuff. So here it is. I'm going to lay out some sweet spots for you guys that you can hit with your stats, and then kind of where you can go from there, things like that. So as a feral druid, your number one stat is going to be critical strike. Your number two stat is going to be mastery. They're very close. So, honestly, if you have an upgrade eye level and one has mastery instead of crit, probably take it. But if, it has haste versatility, probably don't take it. So, anyways, critical strike, you want to aim for about 30% crit. That's the happy point in which you will get the most bang for your buck with the critical strike, and then you would aim for about 55 to 60% mastery. That's going to be the sweet spot there. So once you've achieved both of those things, right, then you can start working on versatility and haste, and this might be just a couple ring enchants, it might just be weapon enchant, things like that. I'm still... Based on my gear, I have about 24% crit without my Vigor trinket, and then I'm running Deadly Navigation to make up for that 30% crit, right? And then I'm running a 37% haste ring enchant for a little bit more smoother haste. So, anyways, you might want to start feeling those things out a little bit and go from there. 30% crit, 55 to 60% mastery, then you can get some versatility and haste after that. The reason versatility is going to be good after the 55 to 60% mastery mark is because versatility will not only increase the damage of your bleeds and your finishers like your mastery does, versatility also increases the damage of your swipes and your shreds. So once you start getting to a threshold with mastery, 55 to 60%, versatility will start scaling a little bit better. Haste will also smooth out your rotation a little bit, give you some energy regen, give you a little bit faster bleed ticks, things like that. And it scales with your mastery. So, anyways, that is what you want to aim for about there. Now, add-ons. There's a couple key add-ons that I use. Anybody that watches my stream knows I don't like, unnecessary add-ons at all. I really like to be as unreliant, as independent as possible from add-ons, but there are a few that I will say make your life much better as a feral druid. The number one add-on I recommend running is fly plate buffs. This add-on is amazing. Just install it, and right out the box, it's going to show you all of your damage over time effects, the ones that you care about, your thrash, your rake, your shreds, or not your shreds, thrash, your rakes, and your rips on all of the enemies. So this is good for arenas, it's good for battlegrounds, it's good for dungeons, it's good for raids. Literally anything you care about multi-dotting in, which is everything as a feral druid, this is going to help you with. Another add-on that I recommend is bigwigs. I recommend it over deadly boss mods because the sounds are much better. They don't break the in-game immersion as much. They're not as abrupt, which maybe you recommend because, you want to be more aware, things like that. I do it because it just shows the timers that I need, gives me a little bit a little ding, and then there's different sounds like when something needs to be kicked, when something needs to be avoided. It's very easy. It's very lightweight as well. I haven't personally looked into this, but apparently it uses way less CPU, way less RAM, and that's, always good. So, highly recommend Bigwigs. And then after that, a lot of people, if you've watched my stream, you notice that I have these big icons in the middle of my screen. These are not weak Rs. Everybody always asks me, what are your weak Rs? Things like that. They're not weak Rs. It's all tell me when, and it's very easy to set up. I'll show you guys how to set up a rake right now. So you can essentially just come here, go to buff, debuff, type in what you want to track, right? I have rake on here right now, but if I want to track rip, then you select that. You select target, rather. It defaults on player, which would be tracking your debuffs, so if rip was on you. And then target is what you are targeting, what you have damage on, things like that. And then only cast for me and hide if no units. Boom, done. Easiest thing to set up in the world. So very fast. You can literally set up these bars in about, once you're very comfortable with it, you can set up this whole suite of stuff in like 5 minutes. There's some playing around that you can do at the beginning, things like that, but it's very easy. And if anybody wants me to go over everything you can do with Tell Me When, I can. If that's a video you guys would like me to publish, I can do that. But if there, it's really easy to Google. So, yeah. And then, lastly, macros that I wanted to go over. Ooh, I can't show you guys that macro yet. It's a very important macro, but we'll go over that one last. So, if anybody's played a druid, you know that in arena, you want to be leaping around as easily as possible. So you've got your regular charge, and you've got your focus charge. Basically, this macro is going to allow you to use your regular charge. If you press control, you will charge to your focus target. So it's very easy to set up. Put it on any keybind you want. Just make sure that you do not have the control modifier keybound for that keybind. And then charge 1, charge 2, these are going to be intervene macros. So if anybody knows the warrior ability intervene, this is basically going to pop you out of form, and it's going to dash you to your ally. So this is going to be ally 1, and this is going to be ally 2. It'll dash you to them if you need to eat a trap, if you need to get to a safe spot, anything like that. That's what that's going to be used for. Then you have charge kick macro. The charge kick macro is essentially going to be used for extending the range of your kicks. So in arena, your kicks are about 13-yard range, right? And then your wild charge is about 25-yard range. So with this macro, you basically just double tap it, and it'll make your skull bash, your kick, a 25-yard range instead of a 13-yard range. So it's pretty nice. This macro is not very useful anymore. There is a story behind it. Basically, I used this to handle what I did when it was a one-button macro that it would do different things depending on if I was in cat form, out of cat form, in stealth, out of stealth, everything like that. It was back when we had Pounce and Ravage and Mangle and Rake and Shred. But since we only have a couple abilities anymore, this one's not really that necessary anymore. Got my Tiger's Fury macro. So this one, I basically put any of the trinkets that I want to use on cooldown on this Tiger's Fury macro. Currently, I am using my Vigor trinket, and I do not want to use this on cooldown. I use this by itself because you want to use it on the 6-second cycles whenever it's at 6 stacks. So you want to use it separately. You don't want to macro that with your Tiger's Fury. And then let's see here. Oh, I've got Pet Hibernate and a Pet Root macro. And what these do is if you're in an arena, okay, and you're against a hunter, you can use these macros without changing targets, without even focusing the enemy pet, and it will use Hibernate and it will use Roots on the enemy pet. So, very cool. And then I've got a regular focus hibernate macro here. Let's see, what else do I have? I've got a racials macro, which basically just uses any racial depending on what class or what race I am. I've got a mouse over regrowth macro, so this is going to be the main one that I use. Basically, in dungeons and arenas, you'll see me hover over my teammates. This will use regrowth. If I'm not hovering over any allies, which is what this help modifier is going to do, then it will use regrowth on whatever I'm targeting. Then I've got a focus roots macro, focus soul bash macro, and so this is a talent macro. A better example will be up here in this macro here. So this essentially is going to use Mighty Bash, Typhoon, or Mass Entanglement, depending on which talent I'm taking. So if you look at this tooltip, right, I'm in Typhoon. If I switch over to Mass Entanglement, didn't switch automatically, but you can see now it's Mass Entanglement. Switch this here, and now it shows Bash, right? So that updates on the fly depending on which talent I currently have. And then I also have a Dispel macro. This is basically I just put whatever healer is most important or I play with the most on here, so I can dispel them in arenas. And then a mouse over Dispel macro. Now, last but not least, the most important macro that you can have as a Feral Druid, and I will go ahead and display this as well, is going to be this dash macro. I know you're saying, why is that the most important thing? But what you might not realize from this, right? By the way, when you make this macro, you need the no stealth so that it doesn't pull you out of stealth if you're in stealth trying to be a sneaky cat. Okay, you don't want to poop rainbows. And yes, I said poop rainbows while you're in stealth. So, anyways, what this will do is if you look here, I'm out of cat form. Boom, dash, and I've got a rainbow. Oh, my blazing wings is on cooldown, so you don't get to see those. But, yeah, I've got a rainbow coming out of my rear. And, yeah, if that's not the best thing that you've seen ever, I don't know what's wrong with you. Highly recommend running this macro. It's going to up your DPS. It's going to up any comments that you get as a Feral Druid. People will be like, holy crap, best Feral Druid I've ever seen. Just pop that macro, boom. Instant compliments, instant gratification. And it's even better if you run it with the Mage Tower cat forms, the Spirit cat forms, because then you're basically Neon Cat, and it's hilarious, and it's awesome. So, anyways, guys, that's going to be the Feral recap for this week. Didn't have too much new stuff to go over, but I did want to recap on the stats and the macros and the add-ons. So, anyways, next week, if you guys want to hear anything in specific, please leave a comment down below, and I will be sure to address it. I read every comment, so if you have any good comments, bad comments, funny comments, sad comments, anything, I will read it. Most of the time I respond yes. Anyways, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys tomorrow night for some more Mythic progression. Thanks, guys.